Oh, Whitney, but okay. All right, it's gonna be like that. It's gonna be like that. Just,
Yeah, it just is better this way as an avatar.
yeah, okay, I get it. People coming in. I don't think I'm logged into my Zoom. So just not giving me all my fun things. Yeah. It's not letting me be an avatar. That is no fun.
That's no fun.
I can get this wicked mustache.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Hey. I'm grabbing some food. I'll be right back. I can still hear.
No, this is kind of during many people's dinner times, or right before dinner times, or right during dinner times. So appreciate you all joining us. For those of you that are in New York, or are near New York, or plan to be in New York next week, we will all be in New York next week. So we have a whole slate of New York Tech Week events that the company's putting on. We'd love to see you guys at all, none, any of those. Can share those out to the class after this. But I'm gonna let Masha run with the majority of this session, and we'll be here to support. So with that, I'm gonna let Masha kind of take it away, and we'll give another maybe minute or two for folks to stumble in. But I think this session is meant to be a little bit more interactive, a little bit more suggestive. So obviously, feel free to ask your questions as you guys see fit. But with that, I'm gonna be quiet and let Masha own the show.
Hi, everyone. I am just trying to figure out what I'm doing. Share screen.
Does anyone ever really know what they're doing, Masha?
No, probably don't. Okay.
I know at least one person on this call has near and dear to their heart the subject that you're about to cover. So if you need a cold call, I think I got some ideas.
Cool. Good. Okay. I'm just making sure I'm sharing the correct screen. Everyone can see it.
Yes.
The business. Okay, perfect. So I don't remember who was on the call last time, who wasn't on the call. If you weren't, does not matter.
Zoom avatar.
Basically, you don't need to know anything about AI going into this workshop specifically. I just pressed something. I have no idea what's happening. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got it. Okay. Everyone can still see my screen, or did I just X out of everything?
No, we can see your screen.
Okay, great.
But it's in a weird window. It's not like inside there.
That's hold on. I just forget this.
Temporary difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. Because we are having these, I have a joke for the crowd. What do you call a blind deer? Anyway.
I don't know.
No idea.
The amount that I hear that on a daily basis, you guys, I don't think you understand.
Better get the slides up or I'm going to continue the joke.
It's here. Canva just like shares things weird. So, okay.
There we go.
We're back. So I was also saying, you don't need to know anything about AI, none of the technicalities to dive into this. If you were on the call last week, or if you watched the recording, you're going to know a lot more diving into this. But this is really going to be a high level look as to what in your day-to-day life you can potentially save time on, make it easier for you to do certain things with AI tools. Kind of jumping into it, if you don't know who I am, I have over 10 years of experience in luxury fashion. I've built my own brand. If you ever see lingerie stuff in the Slack channel, like throughout the years, that was me. I've consulted for a lot of startups, and now I'm with GoCharlie. And if you're like, that's really random, why were you in fashion and now working at a tech company? It's because when I was building my own company, I was a solopreneur. I had an army of interns. I was fully bootstrapped, and I didn't have enough money or time in the world to get everything that I needed to get done. And I completely just was in awe when all of the AI stuff started coming out as to how much time I was saving on a lot of like redundancies and small tasks, and a lot of tasks that would typically go to an intern, and all of a sudden I didn't have to source an intern, I didn't have to train an intern. Certain tasks I could just figure it out with AI, and it worked well enough, just as an intern would have, and it was really, really great. And just on a personal note, I was also kind of just like, I'm over fashion and was looking for my new avenue of where to go to, and through Morning Brew, that's how Brennan and I had met in the first cohort years ago, and we reconnected, and now I'm at GoCharlie with him. So I'm gonna jump in, and now that you know my background, quite literally I use all of these tools, or have had high recommendations for a lot of them. So that is why a lot of them I'm going to be talking about them. So what you will learn from this, as I said previously, you don't need any experience using AI. Of course, if you've used it before, that's great. Hopefully you feel, after using a few of these tools on your own, you'll feel a lot more productive. This is definitely very beginner based. We're not going into like crazy coding or anything like that. And we're not going to be dissecting how to create the most perfect prompt on the like face of the earth. Some of these tools don't even need prompts. So this is definitely a more high level overall look of where AI is today. And what we're definitely not going to talk about is anything super, super technical. If you want more technical, please rewatch Brennan's from last week. He goes through everything in detail. And we're not going to be going into any like data privacy, security, anything like that. And as I mentioned before, we're not going to do anything with like code generation. So we're gonna just go through really quickly what AI is, and then I'm gonna explain to you a couple of the use cases that I see really common with a lot of businesses and employees, and give you examples, and then there will be plenty of time at the end for Q&A. And I think with the examples, I ran this workshop previously with another founder group, and there were a ton of questions at the end because I think everyone's brain started to run with all the examples. So I want to make sure we have enough time for that at the end. So what is AI? And basically what we're going to be talking about are LLMs, which are large language models. I'll be referencing like the ChatGPTs, the GoCharlies, and all of that as an LLM for the most part. In the easiest terms, when you type something into like Gmail and it starts to autocomplete the sentence for you, it's that times a million, like on steroids. It's a really, really advanced version of like an autocomplete. And then a diffusion model is the image processing side of AI, where same thing. The way that I think of it in my mind is you give it text and it jumbles the image, and then the text allows it to kind of formulate back into what you want it to be. Those are really the two main ones that we're going to be looking at. And two things to kind of be aware of are both of these models aren't very smart. It's a lot of just like probability. It's not really understanding what it's giving back to you. And with that, basically AI is not perfect. It likes to hallucinate. It's super biased because humans are inherently biased, and all of these models are trained on human like materials that humans have made. And the quality is also very restrictive because it depends on what materials they had to train it on. So the more materials they had, the more precise the materials are. It all varies as to what the output is going to be, which is also why, like, if you do one prompt at Claude versus Charlie versus ChatGPT versus whoever else, all the outputs are going to be different because they've all been trained on different materials. And this is a really important thing just to remember with any model that you are really going to be like working with. The one really big quote that keeps floating around everywhere is from an MIT study, and they stated that 40% of productivity is being increased at workplaces because of AI use, which means if it is making productivity in the workplace, it's not going anywhere. No one's going to get rid of it. It's going to get really it's fully here to stay. And it's great to know that like it's not a fad. And I feel like a lot of people are seeing what's happening on TikTok, and everyone's like an expert, and it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so behind. Really, I kind of feel like no one's an expert. Everything's going so fast, and everyone that's even keeping up with it every day can't keep up with it. So as long as you're starting, you're already ahead of most people. And because it is here to stay, there's no better day to start than today. Or if this is a recap of a lot of things you've already been using AI for, or you're learning some new tools, that's really awesome. So the best use cases, I put them into a couple of buckets. This list can go on and on and on, but I figured for the sake of hour, we'll focus on AI being your assistant, AI generating content for you, AI doing some automation, being your thought partner, helping you with HR, as well as sales. And all the images in this deck too are generated by AI. I just kind of like threw them in there just to make it a little fun. So diving into the very first one, which is the assistant. One of the biggest things that I always know on my plate is that I want to be on top of a lot of news, whether it's fun pop culture news or it's things that I want to be aware of in the marketing, or case studies on businesses that I want to read. And I'll have 50 tabs open that I'm like, oh, I'll read these at some point, and then I never do. So one of my favorite things AI has help me in terms of like time, but still being able to consume all the information that I need, is being able to ask an LLM to recap an article for me. So whether it's something that you have a PDF of, whether you just copy and paste the text into it, sometimes I'll do that and I'll read like 4 of the bullet points and realize that I'm so happy I didn't even waste time reading the article because it wasn't actually what I thought the information was going to be in there. So these are 2 little prompts that I have. So saying something like, take this link, inserting the link, and give me a bulleted note recap, including what is the key takeaway and explain why it's important. So doing something like that, it just helps you not have to shuffle through so much information on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes You also want to tell this information to someone, so you can just have it, same thing, upload a file and then ask it to recap it into an email memo, pinpoint what's important and send it to someone, whether it's your boss, whether it's your employee, whether it's your intern. Maybe you need them to be like, you're trying to help them up in the industry and you want them to be a little bit more aware of like what's going on and to be more helpful to you. You don't want to be sitting there reading the whole thing and writing it all out. So those are two simple examples for how AI could be like your assistant. Going into content creation, this can be so many different things. One that Brennan was talking about, we're doing New York Tech Week next week, and I was trying to figure out a creative way of having like cute promotional brochures for us. And I didn't want it to be like the super salesy, like, oh, we're GoCharlie and we like do content generation. Like no one's gonna want to like take that home with them. And I was like, oh, maybe I can like get the AI to like generate a Tech Week inspired cocktail and then see if it will generate an image that's like based off that cocktail. And then because we're doing it in New York, people fly out. I was like, let's have it like generate a pretty New York skyline of like the Chrysler Building or something. So with this exact prompt, which is super simple, create a recipe for our Tech Week events, including a generated image, also generate a black and white outline of the Chrysler Building. In like a couple of seconds, it came out and I just dropped it into Canva, and this entire thing took me like 15 minutes to do. Where previously I've done this for my lingerie company before, like 2 or 3 years ago, I drew a cocktail and then I had to go research a recipe on whatever food.com, and it was this whole thing because I didn't know how to like approach that, and like I didn't want to use a stock image, and then kind of like doing all of that was hours of my time. And then doing it with AI, I was like, oh wow, this is so much easier than it was last time. So this is just like a cute example of like something I was able to generate with AI, and it's now a great little cocktail recipe that people can take home with them. And then for us, it's great because then it has our QR code, so it's like a marketing win-win. And who doesn't want like a cute illustration of the Chrysler Building? And another example of content creation for video is not only can you type out in text to create an image, you can also do that with video. So for example, you could create a video of a luxury restaurant, make it in the city, detailed shots of the bar area. If you haven't noticed, all of my examples are always around like martinis and like New York City, because that's my life. So that's one example. You can use a company called Ogden Labs. There's a ton of other ones. I also have a whole list of like my recommendations at the very end too. And then when you already have a video, this one's one of my like favorite tools to use ever. Whether you have an interview with like a podcast, or someone filmed a panel of you, or maybe you have a promotional video, or you generated an AI video and now you have to format them all to fit into a reel format and a TikTok format, and then say it is like an interview with at a podcast where you have 2 people and you need to lay them out, and then you want to have captions, and then you still want it to be branded to you. This company, Opus, I'm beyond obsessed with. You can set it all up. I use it for all of our content repurposing whenever we have a lot of videos coming through. And then they have some options to auto post to TikTok and all of that stuff. So this is a really, really great tool. And I can only imagine where all of these companies too are going to be moving forward, because every couple months we keep seeing updates. So like they're able to do this now, but who knows what they're going to be able to do in the next 2 months. Is this another content creation? It is. also, I know from experience the amount of blogs that I would have to write for my brand for SEO and getting people to the page and having like good content for your newsletter. One of the greatest things with AI is the fact that you can now repurpose content that you already made. So if you are selling a product, for example, you already have a product page. You already wrote out the entire description. You already have all the details in there. You already have the name of it. You have everything you need on a product page. So the fact that you can now in a sentence say, hey, take this product page, drop the link into it, and tell the AI to create a blog post, and it just does it. And then you can also insert keywords and tell it exactly how you want it, is beyond like time saving for me. I'm also not a writer. Like half the time I think I'm dyslexic. So whenever I would have to like sit down and try to like make some blog post about like this season's whatever outfits for the fall, was just like the most excruciating thing ever. And anyone that does need to do a lot of content, it's like, this is one of my favorite things. And it's the same thing. You could do upload a file. Maybe you have a brand brief that has all of your information of your company and you want to create some Instagram post or something. Like, AI is able to read those files for you now. Going into, I think we're in the next section now. Yeah, so like automation, just to give you examples of what that even could look like on your day-to-day. It's things like auto recapping Zoom meetings. We literally were talking about that yesterday, and how we were like, we're always taking notes. Like, why don't we just like sign up for one of these AI companies? Like, that would make a lot of sense. The last workshop, same thing. At the beginning, I was talking to the host and she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be like camera off. I have to take like really meticulous notes on this. And I was like, oh, like you could probably use AI for that. And it's things that you probably don't even realize that exist even. Another company is called Nostra. I haven't personally used them, but I was on at a conference, and the founder of Julie, the shower heads that are like crazy on TikTok right now, he was raving about the fact that like in the last month, the one investment that he did was into Nostra, and apparently it makes your website run faster automatically, and it does its little magic. And he said it was an absolute no-brainer, and they saw instant results off of it. So those are from another person's recommendations. And then I know a lot of you have probably already experienced yourselves, when you have a customer service question and then it's like a bot instead of a real human. It used to be kind of predetermined questions that you would have to pick and choose, where now it's automated and it kind of flows like a human. Those are all LLMs. Those are chatbots. Those are AI. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of those too, if you haven't yet. And there's definitely going to be a lot more automation coming out. These are just the ones that you can kind of start thinking about for right now. I'm really excited just in the general scheme of where AI is going for automation. I think it's going to touch everyone in a certain way with anything that you do in a business setting. Then for a thought partner, I like to think of this category as something that helps you exit the blank page. So when you have to sit down and someone tells you, create a strategy, create a workshop, figure out what the plan is for next week. What are we going to write about in our newsletter? Like, whenever those types of questions get thrown at you, this is a great place to just start. You may not even like what the outcome is. You may love what the outcome is, but it's something to have like just in front of you that you can start to pick and play with, and never ever like get stuck on that blank page. For the example that I threw in here was like, what topics should I write my newsletter on? These are the details of my brand. And then you just like list them out and see what comes up. And maybe you already know what you want to write about and you just want a second opinion. Let's see what they say. I know from being a solopreneur and endlessly calling my mom, trying to just like talk through things, and she wouldn't even know what I'm talking about, but I just needed to verbalize it somehow. This is a really great tool to be able to do that and just get out of your head sometimes, especially if you work remotely or don't have a big team. And for HR, these recommendations come directly from my brother. He is actually C-suite at a medical supply company, so totally different world, but they have offices across the globe. They have very strict onboarding procedures, and basically he was able to use one company called Whale, and it's like a full AI onboarding platform, and he's beyond in love with it. I know he forces all his employees to use GoCharlie for a lot of their documents. There's another company that I didn't even put here, but it's called Scribe, and it basically, like, if you've ever had someone be like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to, like, there's a program and they're like, I don't know how to do this like task in the program. In Scribe, you can tell it how to do it, and it automatically makes like a step 1, go to file, step 2, find this in the list, step 3, like click on it, like doing those step-by-step instructions. And because they have really intense like PLM systems, and it's the same system across multiple countries, it's able to do it in multiple languages, and it fully just does all of that for them. And another great one too is for job descriptions. So whether you're looking for a job, how do you, like, can you upload your resume and then throw in the job description and ask it to make your cover letter for you? And then why not do the opposite, throw in someone else's resume into a job description and ask AI if they are a fit? Obviously you're going to want to have the last word on that, but sometimes if you're kind of maybe in between two people, you have your thoughts, you have your opinions, and you just need kind of like a second opinion, or maybe you just want to see if there's something that you missed. That's a really great way to go about it. Where is this guy? And the last one is doing anything with sales. So whether you do cold emails, cold phone calls, you could ask like any LLM, write this cold email, same thing, list the instructions of like the description of the product that you're trying to sell, tell them we'll send you a free sample, ask it to do a certain tone of voice, and then go from there. And same thing, it may not be the like perfect end result, but at least you have something on paper so you can get it out faster. And I know, like, doing a lot of pitching to PR, everyone is always like, oh, you have to, it's really great if you are able to reference the last article that they wrote, because you want them to write about you. When you're trying to email 300 PR people or like editors or whatnot, journalists, like, you don't have time to like read 300 articles of journalists that you're trying to pitch. So same thing, you can like recap an article and be like, give me a quote from this, and then that way you can have something to at least like slightly less cold feeling intro people. And then there's a crazy one. If you go to Air, I think it's Air AI, it's right on the landing page. It shows you the little like phone call that the AI does for selling something. I think it's a car or something. And it is wild. It's like you truly like there. If you didn't tell me it was AI, I probably wouldn't have realized it. And they were able to like train this company's information on it, and the AI just like cold sells and like is able to like close deals. It's really wild. I would highly recommend just like checking it out. And the way that I started when all of this was coming out was very, very specific. I know that this is insanely overwhelming and there's like a million different ways to approach it, and like specific tools will do specific things, but you probably do a million things in a day. So how do you know which tool to use, where to start? The way that I would do it is I would look at your to-do list, jot down everything that you need to do that day, that week, and then pretend you have an intern and pretend you are writing them an email and giving that intern all of the information that you would give an intern. So like if you need them to go research, say, editors, what type of editors, from where, what information do you want them to have? Write it out as like descriptive as possible, as if you were giving this to your assistant, to your intern. And then I would just take one of those and plop it into an LLM and just see what happens. And then as you're playing with it, nothing bad can happen. It's either it's going to give you something or it's not, but it's a good way of like training yourself to like see your to-do list and then trying to like figure out oh, I wonder if there's something out there that can automate this or that can cut down the time on it. And just looking at your to-do list a little bit differently. And literally nothing bad can happen. Most of these, I want to say almost all of them, except for that one HR onboarding, I think literally they all have free tiers. You can play with it, do whatever you want, and just see how it's working for you. And as I said at the beginning, a lot of the LLMs are trained on different materials. So like if you have a task that you're really trying to accomplish and you throw it in a ChatGPT and you're like, oh man, this just like isn't it, open up Claude, open up GoCharlie, open up like maybe Bard when it finally gets better. Don't use Bard, it's like so bad, but like try to see what other ones are available and like play and figure out what capabilities each one has too, because sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I totally do have this like brand brief, I would love to like reference it, but then you go to ChatGPT and you can't upload files there. You can in Claude, you can in GoCharlie. Oh, I really need to work on video. It's like, great, go to I think Runway is one of them, and then like Opus is one of them, but also depending on what you need to do. Are you an Adobe human? Try to test out every Adobe AI situation that is going on. And I will leave you with the fact that you should always use your common sense. I really just my number one rule is the fact that you should always double check the AI's output, because depending on what you put into it, that's what it's going off of to give you something back. So maybe you want to reword it, maybe you want to give a little less information, a little more information, but you still always want to double check your work, because it could be making something up, it could be pulling information from somewhere else. You just don't want to be put in a tricky situation just because you haven't like checked the work. And I want to say, and yeah, basically I've already said a bunch of this stuff. Make sure to check the work. AI is definitely here to stay. There's a long way to go. AI is not taking over your job. But what I do think is someone that knows how to be productive by using AI, they may take your job. I think that is kind of the bigger conversation that's happening right now. And there's a lot of news. And as I said, there's a lot of like hype boys on Twitter talking about AI. You are not behind. Like I keep thinking I'm behind, that I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I not know this stuff? Or like something else comes up, even though I'm in it 24/7. And like, I have to remind myself, like, no, it's a full, like, people are trying to make you feel FOMO. Like, you are not behind. The fact that you're on this phone call and interested in this already puts you miles away of most people. And practice makes perfect. And within the next 6 months, there's going to be so many more advancements and automations, and hopefully it's going to make our lives even easier and easier every month. And I think there's one last thing. Yeah, so the way that I approach everything when it comes to AI is I treat it like an intern. So just like an intern won't take over your job, AI is not going to take over your job, and that you would never publish something an intern gives you. You're always going to check it. And not even because like an intern isn't smart or anything, but it's like, if it's their first week on the job, they may not even know a lot about your company, right? Like, these LLMs aren't trained on the information that you personally have about your company or your personal life in whatever way that you're like approaching it. And that's how you would also approach the AI. Know that it's limited in information, and it's limited on what information you give it. And these are all my recommendations. We could totally send you guys this deck too. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I know Brennan's probably still around too. So if there are any more like technical questions, he can like tackle those guys.
Masha, can you go back a slide? Because I want a
Absolutely.
screenshot of that.
Yeah. And I swear I like keep adding to it too. These are just the ones now. I just added Canva the other day because they updated all of their AI things. They do a really awesome job in terms of reformatting the size of the picture. So say you're working in Square, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I really need this to be in like a Facebook cover format or like a banner format, and you're using an AI generated photo, it will automatically extend the generation of that photo to like fit the size of it, which is really cool. But yeah, does anyone have any questions?
Masha, hey, this is Whitney. I have a question. It's not so much about what you've covered, which has been super eye-opening. I was having a blast even on GoCharlie asking for some doodles and stuff. But I work for a nonprofit that we provide access to free college courses that lead to free college credit. Do you know any AI that's offering really good tutoring right now for like, or is everything just like this generative AI that's about creating content?
No. So
Tutoring in what respect?
Yeah. So our courses cover exams offered by the College Board. You may be familiar with like AP Advanced Placement. They also offer CLEP, College Level Examination Program. So all of our courses have been designed to help students take and prepare for the CLEP exam. And so we're redoing our learning management system, which is like where our library of courses lives. And everybody at our founder and board level is wanting to put tutoring into the, chemistry classes. Like if somebody doesn't get the answer right in the first time, that they could chat with an AI to help them learn better to be able to get to the correct answer.
Got it.
I know there are AI tutors like that. There's one that's eluding me name-wise, but there definitely are AIs being specifically designed to chat and help you prepare for tests.
Okay.
So let me see
It's happening.
Yeah, one of mine is.
The 100% they are. I can't, there's one that I can't think of the name of right now. But then I was kind of like, I
Khan
don't,
Academy's doing it, right? So I know Khan Academy, I think they call it like Khanmigo. They did it like all internal for Khan Academy.
so that's what I was just about to say. A lot of the ones, I mean, there definitely is, there are a couple that are doing it more kind of uh available for anyone to use on more like general topics. But then I've also been seeing like my MBA program just released like 2 weeks ago of AI chat bot specifically on all the content, and they like trained the bot through all of the content throughout the MBA course.
Yeah.
And then but that's like something that they internally did, and it's like only for their school and only for their students kind of a thing, and they had to like bring someone in and like train the bot like internally. And then Section is another like mini MBA thing that I do TAing for, and they built out their own internal AI bot too that they like just released as well. But it's same thing, like they train the entire bot on the exact courses of the platform. So
Hmm.
it's not like you could, I don't even know what would happen if you asked it like a random chemistry question, because it's all like trained on specific like business use cases.
That makes
Um,
sense.
so being a nonprofit, I'm not sure if that like is even a reality. Like funding wise for like you guys to like internally create your own ones. But if it's like high school AP, like college level, just like general classes, there's I would literally just start Googling AI tutor for students, and something will come up. And I can guarantee there's like free tiers to like try it out.
Neat. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for that.
Of course. Anyone else? Does anyone else have a better joke than Brennan's? That was at the beginning.
That feels like a low bar. So I appreciate you kind of talking about that, like AI is probably not taking anyone's jobs, but someone with AI, someone like using AI might. In my work, we talk a lot about AI, and like I've been to some conferences that very much are like fear mongering it and talking about like, oh, within like 5 years, like you're all going to be out of work unless you figure this thing out. So I appreciate you taking a different approach and being more educational than that. So I don't really think I have a question in there, but I, I
Of
appreciate this.
course. I don't
Compliments
think
are
it,
always encouraged.
yeah. And I'm in the like it's a little morbid, but like we're all gonna die. So I'm just like, I'm not like gonna sit here and like worry about what's gonna happen in 5 years. Like it's gonna be fine. We made it through COVID. Like I think we're gonna be okay. And I just generally kind of try to approach things in a slightly not fear mongering way.
Yeah, and Joel, I've been in the workforce for 30 plus years. So I've been around a long time and I've seen a lot of changes. And you know what? I'm still employed. So, I mean, who would have thought years ago we were carrying a computer in our hand, and we're still here, we're still working, and we still have jobs. So yeah, don't let a lot of that.
Yeah. It's clickbait, it's fear mongering, it's
Yeah.
ways companies are trying to get you on board with it, because at the end of the day, everything is a profitability play.
Well, we're always looking to be more innovative,
Yep.
and always to be able to figure out ways to do things better and quicker and easier and faster, and especially with the volume of work we have. So
Yep.
if this can help us in any form or fashion, don't be afraid of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of like reading, like I wasn't working at this time, but when the internet like started to become mainstream, that like that did eliminate a lot of jobs and changed a lot of jobs, but even more than that, like it enabled other jobs that like Masha and Brennan, you could not be working on an AI startup without the internet, right? Like there are jobs that now exist that didn't before that. And I think this technological transition to me feels it's not the same, but it rhymes. And there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had a lingerie company without Shopify. Like without that, that's just the reality of it. Yeah.
Me either. No,
I really appreciate this. I just wanted to say that I do, because it's not a matter of, I mean, we know that AI is here to stay, but now that it's here, it's like this arms race to, you know, build better, faster, stronger, etc. And so with all of the various needs that you've pointed out, Masha, as far as like what you can use what specific tool for, it just becomes really overwhelming to figure out, okay, which AI app or AI program or company is best to use in, you know, XYZ circumstance. And I mean, you know, it like I said, it just becomes really overwhelming. And, you know, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or any of these other places, social, you know, where they've got like the reels going on and the carousels, and it's like, you know, these are the top 9 things you should use.
Right.
You know, these are the
And
et cetera, et cetera, et
a
cetera.
single one of them is an expert. Like, I promise you, it's just like a reformulation of like the same things, and people are just trying to get their money because they need clicks, because that's how they make a living. So like remembering that too, it's like everything with a grain of salt until you do it yourself.
Maybe to that point, since it's a personally infuriating point as well, is just like if you see some demo of something that's too good to be true, it likely is. Quite often any demo that I see on Twitter or LinkedIn is either one, behind a wait list that you can't get into, or two, it's not actually real and never makes it to production. So listen to Masha on the always validating that what you're seeing is truly possible. Secondly, on that particular point, is a lot of AI companies, including us, are paying influencers to talk about their products. And so it's cheaper for them to mention 9 tools and make a bunch of money off of it and be part of a 9-tool post than it is to do a singular post. So I always try to trust the social media and content from the company itself first, and then to influencers who are talking about it. But you guys have the added benefit where if you do see something crazy, you can send it our way and I'll let you know if it's real or not.
Oh, yay. Thank you.
So I'm going to selfishly call out a friend that I was talking to earlier today. I believe this person knows who it is, but I'm curious, have any of your companies undergone exercises to assess where you might use AI? And if so, what was your process for doing so?
Brendan, are you calling me out?
I may or may not be.
You may or may not be.
Probably am.
So we were kind of thrown into this whole LLM Gen AI environment due to all of the chatter going on in the marketplace and buzz. And so my CEO had heard everybody talking about it. So we had to jump on the bandwagon and, you know, do something about that. We had to figure out how we were going to use this to make ourselves more efficient, save money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was tasked with an initiative to figure out how we can use LLM in our organization. So we went around and asked every department for their top 3 to 5 use cases. And then we reviewed those. We prioritized them and bucketed them into timelines on when we thought we could complete them. One of the things I didn't mention, Brendan, we work a lot with Google too. So we were using some of their tools as well when I talked to you earlier, because we have a relationship with them. But we're building some of our stuff in-house. And Brendan and I were talking earlier, do we do it in-house and use all those resources and time and money and energy? Or do we use something external like, GoCharlie? And we are still tossing that around. And, our philosophy, I know Brendan used it on his first last week, eat your own dog food. So we feel like we are an AI machine learning company too. So, not only from an LLM perspective, not only is it for internal use, but it's also for our product as well. So it's a little different business. So, we have a content creation application and a unified product application as well that we're getting ready to go live with. So we'll see how that works. And what else were you, Brendan? Anything else that I missed that you want me to add, that you want me to comment on? And
No, I think that covers it, and you set me up perfectly. But
I do want to say one quick thing real quick, Brendan,
Yeah.
before you go on. Mosh, I attended last week, and a lot of what Brendan said, I knew a lot about, but I still learned. And, I took notes, although if I was using one of the tools she mentioned, I wouldn't have to take notes. But anyway, I did take a lot of notes because there are some interesting things that she mentioned. Recapping an article, I really didn't even think about that, cutting and pasting and recapping that, and just some other things with regards to she talked about some things with the HRs and uploading and trying to see if it fits into the job description. And I didn't even realize what tools uploaded versus what didn't. So there's a lot of things she mentioned in this hour that definitely going to go back and do a little further research on and familiarize myself with. So
glad everyone's getting some value from this. That's the best compliment. I think the best compliment I got earlier was I actually learned something from the presentation you gave last week. So that's always what we aim for. I think a couple of great points that she just nailed there was, one, start with a workflow. Like, start with a workflow that you're doing and expand out from there. If you try to boil the ocean and make every single part of your life easier with AI, you're going to get in an area that you'll be just as crazy as me. So I recommend find a workflow, start with that, expand out from there, make one thing easier, and then go down the line and make more things easier. But a thing that I think is important, and I hope will make you guys better weapons in any sort of company discussions that are going on around AI, is that I think there's a spectrum of what you're going to see in terms of AI solutions. And so we talked about this on the call earlier, so apologies if this is repetitive for someone, but on the one end of the spectrum, I think you're going to have the Fortune 100s and the companies where AI is the core product you're delivering, and they're going to build their own models. They're either going to adapt to open source, or they're going to pay the big AI houses to have a dedicated model that's custom to them. They're going to have their own custom solutions, and they'll have the dev teams, and they'll have the resources to continuously maintain and update those. At the opposite end of the spectrum, you're going to have the small, medium businesses, the creators, the consumers, where they don't care about the model in the back end. They care about changing their workflows. They care about it feeling like it can do the job that they need it to. And then I think there's this messy middle that you're going to start to see. And ultimately is the opportunity that I see for us, as well as many other AI players, which is players where they don't have maybe the dev resources or the knowledge in-house, to one, build their own model, but then to customize it and then continue to maintain it. So they will go to a model provider, not unlike what we're building with our model in AWS. Or you're going to have companies where they want to build AI into their existing product, and that will be more of an API service offer. I think the SaaS subscription product will still play a role in that messy middle, but that's the way that we're seeing the market start to shake out right now. So the open source models will be useful for the large companies and devs that want to play around. But ultimately, I think the SaaS subscription model is going to work pretty high up that spectrum for most people. It's very rare that you're going to need a custom model. And I would say if you think you need a custom model, ask yourself why you need a custom model. Because if it's just data privacy, there are ways to get models from cloud providers. I honestly think unless you're doing hyper personalized content at scale, you likely don't need a lot of data privacy for using an AI to create social media posts, to create blogs, to create newsletters. You likely can get away with a SaaS tool instead. So I just think I always try to caution people, if you think you have to build your own model, very rarely would that be the path I would recommend to anyone, unless it's your core product offering or you have the necessary resources to build, maintain, and ultimately customize that model.
Hey, Brennan, is there any like data redundancy things to consider in that model as well? You brought up one that I initially thought of, which was data privacy, but also from a redundancy standpoint, if you start building in all this automation, you're going to expect it to run all the time. So what happens in certain outages?
Yeah, so that's kind of the other.
That's kind of the other.
Just had a major echo. So I think I'm Trevor. I think I'm echoing. It's a great question, because if you build your own model, then you're paying for it even when you're not using it. So there definitely would be data redundancies in the event of an outage. That's certainly a possible thing. Not as big of a risk that I've seen highlighted, but it's definitely possible. I think the bigger issue is that if you deploy your own model, you're paying for it even if you're not using it. Which is why I think there's been so much success with an API model or having a model accessible in the cloud that's been built by someone else for your purposes.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yep. No worries, man. Cool. We're at time. If you guys have more questions, please feel free to share in the Slack channel. We have more people this time than we had last time, and the next session is going to be at the Morning Brew office, which will be awesome. So we'll see you all there. But real quickly, if I can just get maybe a either virtual clap or like a real clap of hands for Masha, doing amazing work here. I think she did an awesome job presenting. Much more fun to listen to than me, and you guys didn't have to listen to my jokes for an hour, so that's a win for everyone. Cool. All right, guys, we'll have the recording. We'll share that out to everybody afterwards, but thank you for attending. Thank you for the engagement, and more fun to come in session 3.
Thanks everyone so much.
Thank you, Masha and Brennan.
Thank you.